The world is clearly obsessed with big things. Big televisions, big houses, big cars, big paychecks, and big body parts. Size matters is a phrase that is thrown around again and again. While size of material things is one end of the spectrum, certain body parts also have to bear the brunt of this size madness. As a woman, I am no stranger to my body being objectified and reduced to the cliche of cup sizes and inches. 36, 24, 36. I hate that sequence and all the insecurities it brings about in us women. But thanks to social media and some very vocal celebrities, we've at least started talking about female body insecurities. And slowly, us women are becoming more and more empowered and confident in the bodies we were born in. But you know what? The size madness does not end at women. And we are still not talking about insecurity that men have to deal with. We are still not talking about whether size really matters when it comes to the male endowment down there. I was 13 when I first became privy to how obsessed some people are with the size of their members, and this was thanks to Sue Townsend's very famous series of books, The Secret Diaries of Adrian Mole. Now, one thing that was quite striking in these books was that the main character, Adrian Mole, a boy aged 13 and 3/4, was obsessed with the size of his member, and he would routinely track its growth. He would actually take a measuring tape and measure the length of his penis. And that is when I realized that men felt so much pressure to be a certain size. Now it's a little ironical because the penis is actually a normal body part which serves two main functions, the urinary function and the reproductive function. But the world has thrust a third function upon it, and that is the bragging function. For some strange reason, the size of the male penis has become synonymous with one's masculinity and so-called manhood. Haven't we all seen celebrity phalluses being venerated and described as tractor hose pipes, swords, anacondas, tools and hammers? A simple Google search will throw up a list of celebrities known for their sizes and supporting quotes from their wives, girlfriends or partners about how well endowed they are. This obsession with the size of phallus has actually translated into a lot of dick behavior by guys. And pardon my language, but that is the topic we are discussing today. I was fortunate to grow up with friends of all genders, which also made me privy to a lot of boy talk and how boys behave with each other. The size of the phallus was often an obvious and sometimes not so obvious denominator in half their conversations. It felt like men believed that all their power, personality, and cockiness somehow emanated from their penis, and they wanted the world to believe that theirs was a big one. Now, if any boy on his way to becoming a man did not satisfy certain requirements in terms of physical attributes and behavior, he was often bullied. Like bullying was the love language of guys. Let me recount some instances that you might have witnessed too. The boys who had not started sprouting facial hair were often made fun of. Short boys were ridiculed because somehow it was believed that not only were they short in height, but would be lacking in dimensions down there. Trash talking was considered cool. Bragging about the number of girls you've been with was a real status symbol. The aggressive alphas on the football field were the epitome of manliness. And the quiet guy who preferred to sit in a corner and read poetry was always ridiculed. Discussing their members, masturbation and sexual urges with whoever would listen was part of the course. And somehow, always, all this boiled down to the size of their members. So ginormous was this obsession with size that we girls growing amidst this toxic male frenzy had to take matters in our own hand. And we had to find out if size really mattered. And did the penis make the man? So we set out on our own fact-finding mission, which involved some Google search, conversations with some adults that we trusted, and of course, learning from popular books and movies of that time. What we learned was surprising. Now, Dr. Kevin Wiley, from the Portobello Clinic and Royal Hallamshire Hospital in Sheffield, UK, teamed up with Mr. Ian Yeardley from St. James Hospital in Leeds. What they did was collate the findings of more than 50 international research projects into penile size and small penis syndrome that had been carried out since 1942. So can you imagine the amount of data that they had about men and their penises? Well, so what they did was they drew together the results of 12 studies that had measured the penises of 11,531 men, and they discovered that the average erect penis size ranged from 5.5 to 6.2 inches in length, which is about this much. Now, based on their findings, they reported that men often have a better body image, genital image, and sexual confidence if they believe they have a large penis. Among these studies was a survey of over 50,000 heterosexual men and women, in which 66% of the men said that their penis was average sized. But 85% of the women involved said that they were completely satisfied with their partner's penises. When it came to men, only 55% was satisfied with their members. Two other studies reported that 90% women preferred a wider penis to a longer one. Other studies pointed out that while the issue of male attractiveness was complex, penile size was not the most important factor for women. Okay, well then, if it wasn't penile size, then what exactly were women looking for? Research from the menstrual cycle tracking app Clue in collaboration with researchers from the University of Göttingen, analyzed answers from 68,000 people in 180 countries to find out what is it that women look for in their male partners. And do you know what they were looking for? Women looked for kindness, supportiveness, intelligence, education, and confidence in their partners. Only 22.3% women thought that an attractive body was important. And here again, let me point out, attractive body, not a large penis. Then why is it that men are so obsessed with their sizes? I think it's time we start changing the narrative for men. We need to say it out loud that you do not need a big dick to be masculine, to be a man, or to be liked and respected. It's time parents let their young boys cry and show emotion without telling them to stop behaving like girls. It is time we as partners reassure the men in our lives that we love and respect them for who they are, for how they make us feel, not for their size, not for their bravado or aggression. We need to say it out loud that vulnerability is not a female trait. It is a human trait. It is okay to be vulnerable. It is good to be kind and in touch with your emotions. Empathy over aggression. We need our men to feel secure in talking to us about their issues, be it the pressure the world puts on them to be the breadwinner of the family, or the pressure that pop culture puts on them to have large members. We need to tell them that boys can cry, boys can break, and boys don't always have to be strong. Boys are human, just like we all else are. And when it comes to size, we need the men in our lives to know that size does matter. The size of their heart, the size of their dreams, the size of their empathy. The bigger, the better. The size of their ego, the smaller, the better. And when it comes to the size of their penis, size does not matter.